Hi everyone, this is just a quick video. I'm about to make my food for the week, and also because I usually have some leftover, I tend to make a hiking meal. I make my own rather than buy them, mainly because it's cheaper and I know what goes in it, and I know how to reconstitute it at the end. I'll show you that briefly in the video. I'm not going to show you how to cook food. I think there's lots of YouTube videos out there, and this is just really just quick and basic stuff. These are my hiking meals. Basically, cook some food, run it through a dehydrator, and then run it through a vacuum sealer, put them in a packet. Now what I write on the front of it is the weight, the wet weight, and also the dry weight. And when I do the wet weight, I pack my meals into these little square containers, and up to about there somewhere is usually about the right point. That makes a nice daily meal for me, and also I roughly know how much food is going to come out of that in terms of weight. Once it's been through the dehydrator, I can weigh it again, weigh the dry weight, and the difference between the two is how much water I need to put back in it when I'm rehydrating it. As a general rule, rehydrating it, a good container like this is good. You're keeping in the water, stop it evaporating off. Typically put the food in, put the hot water in, leave it 10 minutes, and they rehydrate. Now this is a work in progress, and the reason why I say that is that the industrial ones have a lot of flavour enhancers and salts and various other sauces and things inside them. They do that because it's flavour and texture and mouthfeel and all of that stuff that you kind of makes the food enjoyable. When you rehydrate food, it doesn't always come out like the food that you put it in. So I'm still working on different sauces, salt content and various other things that I put in these, but I have found that things like tomatoes, vegetables, fruits, when they dehydrate they go really intense in flavour, so sometimes you've got to stop yourself eating them out of the packet before you rehydrate, but other times they add good flavour to the meals when you rehydrate them. Now this one I think is made out of freekeh, which is kind of like the protein of grain, and it's just beans, tomatoes and various different pulses and things like that, and I think there was a beef sauce in there as well just to add some flavour. I can see there's some dehydrated tomatoes. I don't really write what type of meal it is. Ignore it. If it looks nice, I eat it. If it doesn't, this one here has got chicken in it, and looks like some kind of dehydrated meat, mainly chicken, some pulses, some lentils and various other bits and pieces, dried tomatoes. Now this week's meal is basically really simple. It's spiral pasta, leek for flavouring, tomato for the top, eggs, some mousetrap, cheese, butter and flour for a roux because I'm going to make a cheese sauce. There's some parsley there, and as I forgot to put on the counter here, some tuna for the topping. Basically all it is just a cheese sauce, pasta. I may chuck some chopped vegetables in it if I have any in the cupboard. Just keep it simple, and it's easier to work with. So I will get on and cook this, and then I will come back to you with the next stage, which is measuring it up and getting it ready for the dehydrator. Okay, with this part you can see I've a little bit further along. So the pasta is pretty much cooked, and I've prepared all my ingredients while that was happening. So the cheese is grated, tomatoes are sliced, leeks sliced, and eggs. I'll probably boil those in the pasta water. The tuna water went in with the pasta, and I've flaked the tuna. Basil's been chopped up, that'll just go on the top as an aromatic, and the flour and the butter are in the pot ready to make a roux. Basically what will happen next is I will sweat the leeks a little bit. Doesn't really matter, I like fresh leeks, but we're going to dehydrate them anyway. So basically make a cheese sauce, do the roux, add the milk, thicken it up, add the cheese, put in the leeks for the flavouring, put in the pasta, mix it all up, put it in a pot, put the tomatoes on top, put the tuna on top, a little bit more cheese, and I may boil eggs and just drop them in sliced or something like that, or I may have them for dinner. And that's really all that's going to go happen next, so not too much in it, and I'll get back to you when that bit's done. Okay, and ingredients prepared now. So this is basically what it looks like, the small dish version. I also made a large dish for my tea and some lunches as well. So basically pasta in the bottom, tuna on top, sliced tomatoes, basil for aromatics, cheese, and this will go in the oven for a while. Melt the cheese down, brown it off, make it all nice and crispy and everything, and then while it's hot I'll put it in here and seal this up, and then let it cool down before I drop it into the dehydrator. Now, one thing about dehydrating food is that you can't really dehydrate fat, and people will notice I've got a lot of cheese on here which has got a lot of fat in it. So in this case what I'm going to do is I'm going to dehydrate it as much as possible, and then I'm going to vacuum seal it, and then I am going to leave it in the fridge, and this one probably eat within about a week or so of making it. This is really just an experiment to see what I can do with mac and cheese, being cheese is primarily a fat. Normally I'll probably just make a vegetable dish or a rice dish or a pasta dish or a fresh-ish green salady thing, and as long as it makes it through the dehydrator and into a bag, it's good enough for me. It's more really about flavour and nutrition than it is about what I'm actually cooking for hiking. So anyway, onwards and upwards. Okay, so now I've done cooking it. Effectively this is what it looks like. Standard mac and cheese, and all I have to do is put it in this container. So before I go any further, I'm just going to weigh the container, and that's 128 grams. So good enough. And then what I do, basically take out a relatively good chunk and just stick it in the container. It doesn't really matter how I put it in there, because this is only for measurement, and roughly speaking, that's what I want. And there's my container with the food, and we weigh it again, and so that's 504 grams, and so we need to make a note of that for the dehydrator side of things. Hi everyone, it's many hours later, the next night, as you can see from the fading daylight there. This is my dehydrator. It's finished its job. I turned it off this morning just before I went to work, and we'll open it up and see what I've got. this is pretty much the contents. The pasta is dried out, and the crunchy stuff that I made on the top has also dried out quite well. With the amount of fat that the cheese had and various other bits and pieces, I was worried that this was going to still contain moisture, which is not really good for a dehydrated meal in terms of going off and preservation and all of that kind of things. So what I'm going to do now is take it and put it into one of these bags. This is just a temporary bag with a little sealer on it that I can reuse. I've run out of proper bags, so I'll have to make one later on at some stage. But for the purpose of this experiment, everything goes in here. I just weigh it up and see what the actual weight is, and I use this machine here in order to vacuum all of the air out of it. So bear with me as I get on with this. Okay, that's the bag full of stuff, and at this stage I would normally also have dehydrated some fruit, apples, pears, banana, anything really, and add that to it as well, just for flavour and texture and things like that. So we'll see how much it weighs. Again, it's in grams, so metric for me here. And put it on, and 150 grams is what it's come to. So a rough comparison is to another one that I made last night, and that's coming in at 491 grams. I think the other one was 500 and something. So a significant weight saving in terms of carried weight, and really all it is now is just a matter of carrying enough water in my water bottles or my water bag to rehydrate these meals when I need to. I will actually also do a flavour test at some stage, see if this rehydrates and what needs to be additionally done to it in terms of getting it to taste nice when it comes back again. So the dehydrating side of it is really just a matter of putting this thing on here and pushing the button. And if I get a good seal, it scrunches up the bag and then switches off for me. Odd noise. And so what you end up with, a nice sealed bag. As I said, I'm not going to keep this one in this bag because I want to use the bag for something else, and also I'm going to take this out and do a taste test probably for tea tonight, and we'll let you see what it actually tastes like and how it reconstitutes. So back momentarily when I've prepared this as a meal. Okay, by my calculations, I should need about 350 mils of boiling water, so we'll see how this goes. So I thought the good idea is just to use my camping bowl and of course a sport. It's not camping if you don't use those pieces of equipment. Hopefully there's enough space in this bowl to rehydrate. And then just pour some boiling water in. And give it a bit of a stir around, and I shall just leave this for 10 minutes and we'll see what happens, and of course I'll put the bag over the top and keep the heat in. So back in 10 minutes time and we'll see what it looks like. Okay, this should be good enough for 10 minutes I think, so let's see what's happened. Stir it around a bit. So the first thing I'm going to say is it will probably require less water and because I can still feel that the pasta is relatively firm. In terms of everything else, the colour is as I expected it, not as thick as I would want, so I'm probably going to have to work on the sauce side of things a little bit better, and we'll see how that goes, and let's see what it tastes like. So yeah, the taste is spot on, exactly as I wanted it to be. The problem that I've got with the pasta is it hasn't rehydrated as much as it needs to, so probably another 10 minutes or so, so we'll see how that goes. But as a general rule of thumb, I think if there's some kind of thickener in here, just to bring the sauce back, maybe that's something I've got to add after I've dehydrated the meal, just a dried sauce, corn flour or something like that, because certainly the flavour is there. It's just basically that, as always is the case with things, the texture and the rehydration of the pasta. It doesn't need any salt or anything like things like that. So I'll give it another few minutes, but that's basically really what it is. I'll do another video at some stage with a chance to refine this recipe, and maybe I'll just do some research tonight and work out what I need to do for a sauce to thicken it. Probably a little bit of corn flour, maybe some cheese stock or something like that, chicken stock or something like that, just to enhance the flavour when I put the corn flour in it. And we'll see how it goes. I'll put this back on and just let it go for a bit. Okay, so about 5 minutes later I'm back again. What I did do is I put about a dessert spoonful of corn flour in my pot, a little bit of cold water, chucked it in here, and then just poured it up to a temperature again, and it did thicken it up. You won't be able to see it from the angle because it's quite full now. It did thicken it up quite well, so that was the solution. So any thickener would probably do it. Maybe an egg yolk, I'm not quite sure about that, and add some flavour to it. Corn flour or cornstarch, as it's sometimes called, is what I used, and that seems to have done the job. So probably if I was camping and I was rehydrating this, what I would actually do is put it in my cooking pot and put the water in, and then bring it up to temperature that way, and then let it simmer or sit quite high, and that's really just to get rid of some of the water and just let the thickener do its stuff. But as a general rule of thumb, it's now turned into in this case a little bit of a stew-like consistency, so I put too much water in, so I'm going to have to maybe subtract a little bit from the weight in terms of how much water I need to add when I rehydrate it. I put in 350 grams worth of water, which was basically what I removed. However, it's not rehydrated as thick as I wanted it to in that case, so I could have easily reduced the amount of water content, and that effectively just thickens up the sauce and removes the amount of sauce to pasta ratio. But other than that, it's rehydrated nicely. It's got the right flavour, that at least that I like, and it's kind of a meal, a bit soupy, but it will do. One of the other things, of course, is to test it in real life and see what it tastes like on the top of or on the side of a mountain when one's hiking. So just one thing I wanted to say, in terms of preparing food and things like that, hygiene's really, really important. So make sure everything you've got is like sterile or ultra clean. All your bags are clean and sterile. and you follow good food hygiene practices when cooking and working in the kitchen. But other than that, I think this experiment, as I'm going to call it, was in the ballpark. I probably need to make a few more of these. The recipe, flavour wise, was pretty good, and it's just a matter of what else do I need to add to it to turn it into a more nicer meal in terms of ease of preparation, amount of content, flavour profile, and rehydration things. But that's it for this video.